The first time I heard my name from the empty room, I thought it was memory playing tricks on me. The house had that habit, old walls holding onto old sounds, like a shell remembering the sea. I was standing in the hallway with a cup of tea cooling in my hands, staring at the closed door at the end. The room beyond it had been empty for years. No bed, no curtains, no reason for a voice to come from there. And yet, clear as breath near my ear, my name had been spoken. Soft. Not afraid. Almost kind. I didn't open the door that day. I told myself it was exhaustion, grief's echo, or maybe the wind finding a clever path. Life had taught me to explain away the things that hurt less if they were ordinary. Still, that night, as I lay awake listening to the house settle, I wondered why the voice had sounded like it needed me. The room had belonged to my grandmother. She was the sort of woman who believed kindness was not a feeling but a practice, like sweeping the floor or boiling water. When she walked, her bangles whispered. When she spoke, people leaned in. After she passed, we cleared her belongings slowly, like we were afraid to disturb something sacred. Eventually, the room emptied, but her presence never did. The walls kept the warmth of her laughter, the window remembered her mornings, and the silence carried her patience. Days passed. I worked, cooked, answered messages, smiled when required. Normal life resumed its careful march. Then one afternoon, as sunlight pooled along the corridor, I heard it again. My name. This time closer. This time pleading, though still gentle. I felt a pull, not fear, but responsibility, the way you feel when a child tugs your sleeve. I opened the door. Dust danced in the light. The room smelled faintly of soap and old paper. Nothing moved. No one stood there. I laughed under my breath, embarrassed by my own imagination, and turned to leave. That's when I noticed the notebook on the floor. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. The cover was worn, corners softened by time. Inside, the pages were filled with my grandmother's handwriting, loops and slants I recognized like family. But these weren't recipes or lists. They were names. Dozens of them. Beside each name was a small note: needed listening. Needed bread. Needed forgiveness. Needed a ride. It was a quiet ledger of kindness, a map of people she had helped without telling anyone. At the back of the notebook, one page was blank except for a single line written in fresh ink, impossible as that was. My name. I sat on the floor and cried, not from fear, but from the sudden weight of being seen. I understood then that the voice wasn't asking me to remember. It was asking me to continue. The next day, I took the notebook with me. I didn't know why, only that it felt wrong to leave it behind. On the bus, I noticed a woman struggling with grocery bags. I stood, offered my seat, helped her down at her stop. She thanked me with tired eyes, and for a moment, I heard my name again, not spoken aloud, but settled warmly in my chest. It happened like that, quietly, again and again. The notebook guided me, though the names inside weren't people I knew. Sometimes I recognized a street, a shop, a neighborhood. Sometimes I didn't. But each act, no matter how small, felt like answering a call. I began to understand that kindness has a sound. It's not loud. It doesn't demand applause. It's the soft voice that says someone matters. One evening, I found a name in the notebook with a note that read, needed company. The address led me to a small apartment above a tailor's shop. I knocked, unsure, heart racing. An old man opened the door. His face fell into surprise, then relief, as if he'd been expecting me without knowing who I was. We drank tea. We talked about nothing important and everything that was. When I left, he pressed a wrapped sweet into my hand and said my name with gratitude. Not knowing how he knew it. Not needing to ask. As weeks passed, the empty room in my house felt less empty. The voice stopped calling because I had learned to listen without being called. I returned to the room often, not to wait for miracles, but to sit in the quiet and think about how invisible needs move through the world. One night, during a storm, the power went out. I lit a candle and stood in the hallway, shadows trembling along the walls. For a moment, I felt the same stillness as the first time I heard my name. But instead of fear, there was peace. I spoke aloud, thanking my grandmother for trusting me with her unfinished work. The candle flame steadied, as if acknowledging the promise. The notebook eventually filled with new notes, my handwriting joining hers. Names I added after listening carefully to the world around me. A neighbor who needed patience. A colleague who needed encouragement. A stranger who needed directions and a smile. I realized kindness doesn't end, it changes hands. One morning, months later, a child knocked on my door. She said she heard I helped people. She had heard my name from someone else. She needed help with her homework and a safe place to sit until her mother finished work. I welcomed her in, smiling at the strange, beautiful way voices travel. That evening, as the sun set, I passed the empty room and paused. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full of echoes, of names spoken gently, of needs met quietly, of love moving forward without needing to be seen. I never heard my name from the room again. But everywhere I went, in every act of small kindness, I heard it reflected back, not as a call, but as a reminder. When you answer with compassion, the world remembers you. And sometimes, it calls you by name just to say thank you.